Speaking of not good, the Raiders had Josh Jacobs, and they have Max Crosby and Devontae Adams, 3 great players. Josh Jacobs is now leaving, and he's going to the Green Bay Packers. And Josh Jacobs has made the rounds, the former Alabama star, and he'll be a big-time star in Green Bay, was lamenting on a podcast about being a Raider for a few years. You know, I've said this before. It always makes me happy when I see somebody that works really, really hard. I'll get called by people in my industry, or I see athletes get drafted by really stable organizations, because I've been very lucky in my career that I've worked overwhelmingly for really good companies, stable financially. I had 2 years in Tampa, and it was an absolute circus. I could go on for hours. Our general manager at the time once told people not to park in a certain parking lot, and 2 days later, he had his Porsche parked sideways, taking up 4 spots. It was a circus. Employees, bosses hitting on employees at Christmas parties, people getting fired left and right, a weatherman who dressed up a dog in dresses on the set. 5 o'clock news at one point was on a couch that I kept falling off of because it was too slippery. I wish I was making it up. It was a disaster.
A too slippery couch? We got to find that clip. We got to, internet, you got to do your thing and find those clips of Colin falling off a slippery couch and a dog being dressed in dresses.
A lot of good employees, though, but you couldn't do your best work as an employee because management was a revolving door full of clowns. There's only so much you can do. People I work with was great. The reporters were great, and the anchors were great, and the producers were great, and the people at the desk were great, and that's the Raiders. And Josh Jacobs is telling you, this is what it's like to be in a dysfunctional organization. I mean, Green Bay is going to be Disneyland. Lush gardens, functional, smiling employees. The Raiders are that carnival that shows up and they host it in your high school parking lot. And one of the carnies says before you get on the tilt-o-whirl, I wouldn't sit in that chair. We've had some problems with it. Raider fans are so odd and delusional. They get very angry because they're all over the country, and they're always asking you, how do you think the Raiders will do this year? I don't know. They're in a division with Andy Reid, Sean Payton, and Jim Harbaugh, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, and a very promising rookie named Bo Nix with 61 college starts. And the Raiders have a defensive head coach who has $28 million in financial debt because of car dealership things gone sideways. He's an interim coach, a former player who's never been a full-time head coach. And again, Andy Reid twice a year, Sean Payton twice a year, Jim Harbaugh twice a year, Mahomes, Justin Herbert, and potentially a really good college quarterback turning pro, Bo Nix. I don't like the Raiders. They've been over 500 2 times in 21 years. The ownership is poor. The division's good. Their quarterback's a journeyman. I don't think it's good. And I'm really happy for Josh Jacobs that he goes to an organization that in the last 20 years in Green Bay has made the playoffs 14 times. And do you know how hard that is? Do you know this isn't college football where the good programs go to bowls almost every year? In the NFL, half the playoff teams annually don't make it the following year. And the Packers 14 times in 20 years, Super Bowls included. That's really hard to do.
Okay, so I want to start this off with a question more than anything, especially directed towards the Raiders fans. What do you think about that? Like, do you think that's accurate? I mean, he's saying that you guys are all delusional, that, you don't know what's going on, that the Raiders are just apparently a high school carnival. And I'm really curious because I've interacted with a lot of Raiders fans recently, and they are incredibly passionate and intense about their team. They're really excited about this season. They're really excited about their head coach, Aiden O'Connell. Even some of the fans are really excited about Gardner Minshew. Like they feel like they can do it. They trust the defense. They trust that the offense is going to come along. They think that they can kind of compete with even the Kansas City Chiefs. Whether that's right or wrong, that's what the fans feel like. And I'm curious because maybe I can get some honest feedback here. We'll know. I'll find out soon enough. But I feel like certain franchises, certain organizations and fan bases have really, for the most part, all fans are delusional to a degree, right? That's just the reality, right? People are delusional in general. But we know that fans are extreme. It's short. Fan is short for fanatic, right? Like that's what it is. But I do think that many teams have like a pretty good fan base that really understands their team, their franchise, their players, their coaching, their ownership. Like they just have a fair assessment of who they are, what the expectations are, what needs to be done. And I think the Patriots have that, actually. I think the Eagles have that. I think actually the Bills have that. I think those fan bases have a pretty good understanding of where the teams are at, who their coach is, what the problems are, what the pros are of their team. Because you'll have like other franchises the fan bases that feel like extra delusional for whatever reason. I don't know if it's because their local media is more unconditionally biased, and so they're too extreme, because we can have it on both sides. We have some, local media that's too negative, too extreme, and they're constantly bringing them down. And Jared Goff kind of said that about the Detroit Lions. And then you have other maybe media that's like too favorable, that just keeps telling the fans, hey, this is great, we're going to be amazing. And I don't have access to everyone's local media, of course. So I'm just really curious about that, because for the Eagles, let's use the Eagles as an example. There's no delusions that like Nick Sirianni is this great coach, that he's this amazing top level coach. But then we like look at other fan bases that'll say someone like I'm trying to think of a good example right now. The Chicago Bears, Eberflus, they'll say he's an amazing coach. He's an unstoppable coach. He's the guy to do everything with Caleb Williams. And it's like, you don't have any questions about him? Like none at all? Like you're not questioning it at all? And I find that, silly to me. A lot of Bills fans hold Sean McDermott up very hypercritically, and they're like, what are you doing? What are you doing? A lot of them want to see them move on from McDermott. But then you got like kind of like the Dallas Cowboys, and they're still singing the praises of McCarthy and Prescott and some of these other people. And it's like, guys, you're still singing the praises of 12 win seasons, and yet you're not even close to getting to a Super Bowl. Like, don't you want to get to an NFC Championship game and a Super Bowl? And if that is the case, then like, what are you doing to get there? And yet they're still singing the praises. They'll say that Dak Prescott is like the number 2 quarterback in the NFL. That's delusional to me. Even big Philadelphia Eagles fans are not saying that Jalen Hurts is the number 1 quarterback. Sure, they're going to elevate Jalen Hurts probably more than other fan bases will, understandably so. But for the most part, and you're going to have some fans, of course, that are going to say this, but the average Eagles fan is not saying that Jalen Hurts is the number 1 quarterback or the number 2 quarterback in the NFL. You have a lot more people saying that Dak Prescott is the number 2 quarterback in the NFL from Dallas Cowboys fans. That's delusion to me. And so with the Raiders, Colin is essentially saying that the Raiders fans are really delusional, that they really have no idea what's going on, and that the Raiders are just this poorly run organization, and goodbye and good luck, essentially, right? The coach, I didn't know this, but your coach is in $28 million of debt. I don't even know how that even happens, because of car dealerships gone wrong. I mean, I don't even know. I don't know that story. I haven't even looked that up. I haven't heard about that. I don't know if that's like a newer story, because this is the first I'm hearing about it. But yeah, I'm really curious if the Raiders fans have a sense that they're a poorly run franchise, if that's what they believe, or if they believe that maybe they were, but things are turning around. Do they think they're going in a positive direction? Like, I don't have super strong thoughts about it. I am very optimistic that the Raiders will be competitive this season, that their defense can continue to be good, and that the offense can take some strides forward. I have no reference point as to how successful they will be. I do think the Chiefs are the Chiefs. I do think it's hard to gauge also in terms of the Chargers, but I do believe Harbaugh and Herbert are coming, whether it's this season or the next. They are going to be an elite duo in the NFL. That's brutal. And then I believe Sean Payton is a great coach as well. Whether you guys want to say that he's this elite, most amazing coach ever, that's fine. I understand you not saying that, but he is clearly a great coach, though. He is clearly an above average coach in the NFL. And whether Bo Nix is the guy or another guy, the moment he gets situated with a quarterback, that team is going to be really good to great. It'll be just a matter of time more than anything. So then if you're a Raiders fan, you have to ask yourself, what direction are the Raiders going in? Is Aiden O'Connell the man? Is he? Do you need to find another quarterback? Do you need to find another coach? Do you need to take a swing at a coach? Do you need to try to get like a new, younger, innovative, offensive-minded head coach to kind of really revamp that offense? It's just all questions that I think are worth asking, even if you're the biggest die-hard Raiders fan. Because if you're a Raiders fan, you want to see your team go in the right direction. And I'm not saying they're going in the wrong direction. I'm saying I don't know what direction they're going into. Like I said, I think they're technically going in the right direction, but is it fast enough to catch up to the other teams? I think that to me is probably the better question to ask. I do believe the Raiders are going in the right direction. They're not going in the wrong direction, but are they going fast enough where they will be able to catch up to the other teams around them? Are they going to be able to compete with the Bills, with the Chiefs, with the Ravens, with the Chargers, with the Texans? There's a lot of great teams now in the NFL and especially in the AFC. So it's just you also have to. I'm also curious, like, what are the expectations for the Raiders? Are you happy just to make it to the playoffs? Are you happy with just a playoff win? Are you happy with an AFC Championship appearance? It's like, what are the expectations? What will make you feel like that was a great season? Because a lot of those teams that I listed, making the playoffs isn't good enough. Winning the division isn't good enough. Winning a playoff game isn't good enough. Just making the AFC Championship game is not good enough. So I'm really curious to see where the Raiders stand with all of this and where you guys all think. But those are just my thoughts. I would absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think? Do you think that the Raiders are going in the right or wrong direction? And how do you feel about the Raiders fans having this kind of judgment on them of being on the little bit more delusional side? I would absolutely love to hear your thoughts. Whether you agree with me or disagree with me, I read every single comment. So let's get into some discussions. Let's get into some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.